Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willis. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willis, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to Northeast Texas, Southeast Texas, Northwest Louisiana, Southwest Louisiana, and to every nook and cranny receiving the signals from our 100,000 watt transmitter. Anyway, folks, we are going to have a great day for you, but I forgot to say one little thing. Those little boxes we also call AKA the Howard Reynolds machines. Anyway, folks, we are going to have a great show for you today. Good morning to those internationally. You know, they receive their signals through the internet, formerly known as the ARPANET, created by whom? We the people, you, your intellect, your tax dollars, now controlled by a few and exploiting you to kingdom come. Before we get started, though, we have to get to our studio with El Señor Howard Reynolds and Jacques Van Beba. Okay.
Oh, there they are.
I was going like, oh my God, where's the signal? Where's the signal?
Well, we were out wandering around, so decided to come in and do a radio show.
Good morning. That's what it is.
Yes, it's Friday morning at the radio, and we are hoping that this will be the last Friday of Fund Drive. Because, you know, we need to get our goal and we need to power this station with volunteer dollars and volunteer bodies, because that's what we run off of. Jack, do you feel exploited by the oligarchs?
Yes, I could say I feel exploited by the oligarchs. No. I think they're exploiting the beep out of us.
Well, make them stop it.
Well, the people will have to do that. They will have to say no more war, no more profit through war.
Right. Well, we need to bring in our interim general manager, Sandy Weinman, provided his tin cans and string have held up. Sandy, are you there? Can you hear us now?
Well, the tin cans and string are gluing themselves back together right in front of my eyes, which is an incredibly strange thing, but that's how it goes during Fund Drive, and that's what we're doing, Fund Drive, folks. Final Friday. Good stuff. We've collected $96,602 from 579 donations. Trying to raise this to 150,000 by Tuesday. It's a long way to go, but we will get some sustaining money at the first of the month to add into this. Believe it or not, even though we're 2/3 of the way, or nearly 2/3 of the way, the goal can be made, but we're going to have a very good response on this Friday and the rest of the days to make that goal. If you've yet to pledge to this fund drive, please do so by calling 713-526-5738 and hit option 1. Or go to kpft.org and click the donate button. Good morning, all. Final Friday of Fund Drive. Final Friday of Fund Drive. Boy, those words just roll off the tongue, and they probably sound pretty good to many.
They
Back
do.
to you, Alberta.
They do
All
sound
right.
good, Sandy.
Yeah,
So,
it sounds great. It sounds great. Go ahead, Howard.
Oh, I keep blocking you there. Sorry. We've got some wisdom from Jack. Looks like he's got a whole page of wisdom for us this morning. I did come in about 5:30 this morning, and he was busily writing away. So let's hear it.
All right. Good morning, Egberto. How are you?
Good morning, my brother. Just here waiting to hear your wisdom.
All right. There's a lot to consider in this election. Do we hold on to our democracy, or do we hand democracy over to an authoritarian regime that wants to rule, not govern? Look back in history 100 years. Where was America at? World War I was over, and the banksters were speculating on the future with the people's money, and they lost, and they lost sending, and they lost. They were betting with the people's money, and they lost, sending the world's economy into a tailspin. By then, aggression was building in Germany, and a madman was seducing the German people, telling them that they were cheated by the Treaty of Versailles, and only he could change that. Bring us forward to today, and America is the aggressor. And we have a madman seducing the citizens with promises of greatness. History we didn't learn from is about to overtake us again. We should pause and take a good look at ourselves and where we're going.
Should we call him Kaiser Trump?
No, we need to find a new definition for this one.
Well, there are, but they're unbroadcastable. All right, enough of that. And Egberto, what do you got for us today?
Oh man, we got a great show. A great show. I have one 17-minute interview that I must play. I almost cried as I interviewed this person about Medicare Advantage and what he went through. But luckily, it turned out all perfect for him. But what brought it up is not about him. It's about listening to him and understanding that he got lucky, but most people that it happened to won't. And then after I talk about that, a message I got when I turned this into a blog and I posted it not only in my newsletter on Substack, but also at my Medium. And there's a woman who responded that, well, I'll go into that a little bit later. But what Jack had to say, like I said, Jack always says something that triggers something in me, right? And that's why I love to hear his initial commentary, because when he spoke about the what the billionaires are doing, etc., and it's not quite that is a cliche, right? We hit the billionaire, and they're doing this X, Y, Z, whatever. But I just started to think about 2008. And then I started to think about 2019, meaning COVID 19, and all the financial things that we've gone through. And for each of these pains, we can go back to when Reagan was in office and we had the financial crash of, I think it was 84 or 83. And we can go ahead for the next huge downturn we had right under Bush 1. Um, it, it, it always turns out that the average American citizen end up paying the price, and the billionaire class ends up in a better place than they were before. And when we got Donald Trump, we actually saw that happen on steroids. Americans were dying first of all, Americans were misled. And now we have a bifurcated American population where there are those who are completely anti vaccine and anti all of this because those with power and control, enough control in the media, were able to taking corrective action to prevent a virus from spreading and killing over 1 million Americans from being attenuated. We allowed that to happen. And in the process, we brainwashed a lot of people into thinking rubbish, into thinking that somehow these things don't work. And in the same process, in the same manner, we empowered the pharmaceutical companies. We waited for them to really decide how they were going to profit economically before we unleashed all the different avenues in which we could have protected the American population. I'm in Panama, my third world country where I'm from. I'm only using American terms here, my third world country. There's not a damn thing third world about Panama. But, we like to refer about Panama, Costa Rica, and all these places as third world. We were, without having a vaccine, many couldn't afford the vaccine. Yet our death rates, because we used the preventative measures, because we used the mask, because we used the selective quarantines and all these things, We didn't have the death rates we had in the United States. Australia and New Zealand, countries controlled by women who looked at the data and said, we are going to protect our population, did not have, even before the vaccine came about, did not have the death rates. But we, the people who love our freedom, a false freedom that is, we allowed the plutocracy, a few in the plutocracy, to cause our demise. And now with this election, remember, as a host here, I can't really say how to vote, but I can sure try to do my best to have people informed about truth and reality. We better not make the mistake and do things wrong. Because when we talk about it existential, we're not talking about it, oh, America's going to die or America won't exist. But what's going to happen both to our credibility overseas? There's an interesting thing having a and I say this with respect, but and I don't know the right word to use, but I don't want to use the word dumb, but I can't think about it. If as we dumbify ourselves, a dumbified population with an unexhaustible source of weapons of death is a dangerous thing. But see what you did to me, my dear brother Jack. There's a lot more I could say on that, but let me pause here and say we are in fund drive mode. And folks, as Sandy was saying before, we are currently behind in the rate that we need to get to $150,000. We do need to raise $150,000 to last us until, I guess, I think Sandy said it, February, if I recall it correctly, either late January or February. So before I get into the video, very important video that I'd like all of you to be listening to. It's a very important interview. Please give us a call at 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738, extension number 1. We're asking for those who can to consider giving us a $5 a month donation or $10 a month donation. Something that like a coffee a month, a couple of coffees a month. What can that do for us? It doesn't mean a lot to you. Well, I should let me be. It doesn't. It to most buying a coffee for a friend a month or buying a couple of coffees for a friend a month, especially one that gives a lot in return, doesn't really cost you much. As someone who volunteers here 5 days a week for an hour and the preparation that goes into doing all of this, I am also a contributor. I am a $10 a month contributor to the station. I wish I could do more, but there are a lot of other 501c3s as well that I give $10 here, $5 here, that sort of thing to have a footprint in this space of making things better for us all. So I'm asking you kindly to give us a call at 713-526-5738, extension number 1 to donate, or go to kpft.org, kpft.org, hit that donate button, and after you hit that donate button, select Politics and Right as a program you're supporting, and then give whatever you can. I am asking for those sustainers, $5 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month, but remember, whatever your heart can, whatever you can provide to help us continue doing what we're doing, both in the sense of giving you this sort of a truthful type conversation, but as well as the great music that you don't hear anywhere that we produce, the great community programs that we have, flavors of every type. It's worth it. Give us a call, 713-526-5738. Since we're in Fund Drive, I'm going to ask Sandy to come in again, right? And then I'm going to give you that 17-minute interview. But let's have Sandy give us a little bit more. But we do need your support, and please do so now. The interview will start in about 2 or 3 minutes, so you have time to call in. You have time to go to that internet and get it done. So I ask you so kindly, we really need to catch up on where we're at. Sandy, are you there?
I am, Egberto. Folks, this is the final Friday of Fund Drive. We're waiting on that first pledge in the morning. We have a goal of $300 for this show every morning. We're going to wrap it up on Tuesday, so there is still a couple of more opportunities for you to chime in. But if we can get things done this weekend, well, it'll just make those Monday, megalomaniacal Monday and Tuesday that much better. Voting Tuesday, election Tuesday, we are there. 713-526-5738. Hit option 1 or go to kpft.org and click donate to make that donation. A $5 or $10 a month sustaining donation is really, if we have enough of those, we can run this station without fund drives, or ideally down to one a year. But we're going to get a lot of people that are going to say, well, I can't give you a sustaining membership. I can't donate now. And we will understand those things. But for those of you that can, especially as we approach the end of the year here, remember, we're a 501c3. And for those that fall into the right guides of the IRS, this is tax deductible. Your donation is tax deductible. We have 3 really great events, one coming up almost immediately. On the 13th of November at the Cadillac Bar, we're going to be getting together for a fajita dinner hosted by Rick Esquerdo, and we're going to have some musical entertainment. I'm hoping live. Ari Fresco is going to be joining us if we can make all the arrangements in the room that we booked. And we're going to have a good time with that. And then in December, on the 7th of December, Ronnie Renfro and Tom Richards are going to be hosting the second KPFT cruise on Clear Lake. Yesterday, a lot of people stepped up for that event. Remember, all seating capacities are limited, especially on a boat. If you're interested, don't dwell too long. And the third event in January, under the volcano in Rice Village, we're going to have a brunch. So there are 3 events, November, December, and January, giving you the opportunity to fill up your calendar with something really cool to go do. For those of you that are sustainers, maybe at the $5 level, if you want to make that 10, you can pick up on that brunch or pick up on that fajita dinner just by doing that, increasing your sustaining membership by $5 if you're already at $5. A lot of people are doing that this drive. However, we can do this, hopefully with many, many people giving a little bit is what we need to do to pay those bills through the winter months, November, December, and January. So that's all we're trying to do, simply is gather up that money right now. And we're still waiting on that first pledge of the morning, and we're still way short of the goal. We're not quite to the 2/3 mark, but getting closer. And every pledge counts, especially right now. So 713-526-5738, option 1. Thanks to those 579 kind acts that have totaled the over $96,000 that we put together already. So can you be next? Can you help power KPFT into 2025? Egberto, back to you.
Thank you very much, Sandy. And folks, we still have that thing, $250 contribution, coffee with Egberto. You disagree with the things that I say, you agree with it, whatever. Let's sit down and have a cup of coffee or several cups of coffee. The last time I went out, we started with 1 cup of coffee, then it kept on going coffee after coffee, because what I thought was going to be an hour and a half or so turned out to be like a 4-hour thing, because we had so much fun. The person didn't really agree with me on everything, but we left there with mutual respect. And, again, I love doing that kind of a stuff. So, hey, as a contribution to the station, that's what we're doing it for. Anyway, folks, let me go ahead and start the video, and then we can talk about it a little after and we move on. Let's go. Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. I'm your host. Today we are honored to have Judah Freed. Judah Freed is a journalist, author, storyteller, and an activist. He's the author of the book Making Global Sense: Grounded Hope for Democracy and the Earth. Let me tell you something, folks. Today, what we want to talk about is not Judah's book. We will talk about that. That's an important piece of his life and what he's speaking about. But today we need to speak about something that is existential. Today we need to speak about something that affects us all. Today, we need to speak about an aberration that needs to be fixed. Welcome to Politics Done Right. Judah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing grateful. I'm glad to be here.
Well, look, Judah, one of the reasons I wanted to speak to you is, I send out my newsletter 1 to 3 times every day. And you responded to one of my newsletter relative to Medicare and Medicare Advantage. And as soon as I saw your story, I said, I really hope this guy will tell his story to the rest of America, because stories are the way we get to make change or changes, because people don't get it when they hear it in the abstract. But when they look at you and they say, you could be me, then we start to get change. So first of all, tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I'm a Denver native. I grew up in Colorado, and back in the days of the Marlboro Man and all that Western individualism stuff. And entered journalism in 1976. Spent a decade covering Colorado, then 2 decades covering the media industry for the top trade magazines in the USA and Europe. And then when the market fell out of that in the 2009 crash, I fell in love with a beautiful, wonderful New Yorker who lived on Kauai. And she said, I love you, and why would I leave paradise? So I got rid of most of my stuff and moved to Kauai, and lived in Hawaii for a decade. And then went back to Denver in 2010 when the marriage ended, and we're still best friends. And the part that matters is that at the end of 2015, early 2016, I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And this was what they call clear cell renal cancer, which basically by the time they caught it, the cancer had consumed my left kidney. And when they took it out in February, it swollen to about the size of a football.
Wow.
Yeah, or a cantaloupe, I guess. Cantaloupe, small football.
Right.
But anyway, it was huge. And so I was given at that point about 3 months to live, and the surgery, helped, gave me a new lease on life, but it didn't get rid of the cancer. And so at that point, there was also like a thumb of the cancer that started growing up the central vein to my heart, and that started regrowing as what they call a tumor thrombus, or a blood clot filled with cancer cells. And that started climbing by the autumn. That started climbing up into my heart. So I did a second surgery, and the first one was at Queens Hospital in Honolulu. The second one was at USC Keck in Los Angeles. And the doctor.
Let me stop you for a second here. At this time, how old were you?
Oh, I was 65. And the part that's relevant here is that I had been one of these guys who had been so healthy that I went to a doctor once a year, whether I needed to or not. It was like washing your hair on Saturday night. And so I got diagnosed. I started having this pain in my side and got diagnosed. And the Medicare Advantage plan that I had wasn't paying the bills.
So wait, let me get this right. So you were at 65 when your cancer was diagnosed, but it was diagnosed while you had not traditional Medicare. You had chosen Medicare Advantage.
Right, because I was so healthy. Who needs all this expensive stuff, I figured. And the Medicare Advantage plan looked like, it gave me like the silver sneakers. I go to the gym. Right. Gave me all these wonderful side benefits. But when I started having pain in my side and started going through testing, it wasn't covering the tests. And I would call them, and they would make up stories. And, so by the time I finally got diagnosed, there was already about, close to $3,000. Well, more than that, close to about $5,000 in medical bills that hadn't yet been paid by the Medicare Advantage plan. And so when I was diagnosed, I had 3 days, because when you sign up for Medicare, when you turn 65, there's a timeline before you can sign up for full Medicare. So I had 3 days to get accepted by Medicare and transfer all those bills to plain Medicare. And then I also got a Medicare supplement plan, because Medicare only pays 80%. Right. So I need a supplement plan to pick up the other 20%.
So let me see if I understand this right, because this is important. When you were about to switch, when you realized that your Medicare Advantage was pretty much a fraud, and you were going back,
at least ineffective, yeah. To be polite, it was not doing its job.
I understand that. I know you're a straight line journalist. I am not. I speak things the way they are. I think, believe it or not, I think that is one of the problems in our why things we get away with, because we're polite with these criminals. We are polite with them, but your life to me is worth much more than the politeness.
Okay, so let me say it a little more bluntly. If I had stayed with the Medicare Advantage plan, I'd be dead.
There you go. That's my point.
And that's, because they were disallowing my charges. And, if they're already doing this on the diagnostics, I can just imagine what they would have done on the treatment. And so since I switched to the Medicare, this was I switched like in late December, early January in 2016. Since then, I've had four hospitalizations, 2 major surgeries, went through interleukin-2 treatment, which was ghastly. Fortunately, it's been outpaced by recent developments. But I did immunotherapy repeatedly with remission for about 2 years in between them, and finally the immunotherapy stopped working because I guess my body just got so used to it. It wasn't, the cancer was starting to hide again. So it started regrowing in 2022. And so they discovered this past year, this summer, that the immunotherapy wasn't working. So now I'm on a cancer pill, a targeted therapy that's designed to basically kill off the blood vessels feeding the cancer.
The cancer, right.
And, that's been an adventure in and of itself. But all of this, I figure I probably had somewhere in the neighborhood of $1 million to $1.5 million worth of medical bills.
Now, interestingly, because you were able to switch to Medicare from Medicare Advantage, but not only that, I think if I understand what you're saying correctly, you were still within the 6-month window where they had
3 days.
By 3 days. This has to be explained to our audience. His cancer, Judah's cancer, was found at a perfect time because I hate to put it that way. Forgive me if
the timing couldn't have been any better. Yes,
right. For being a bit insensitive, but I really want our audience to understand what's going on here. If Judah's cancer had been found 3 days later and he didn't make that switch within that 6 months of after becoming 65 years old, he would not have been able to switch from Medicare Advantage to traditional Medicare. He could switch to Medicare, but he would not have been able to afford the supplemental Medigap program, or they may have denied it altogether. Yeah,
there's like in that 3 days, I contacted Medicare and got accepted, and then they took over the bills.
Right.
And then I searched out the best supplemental plan that I could find. Fortunately, my wife was on the AARP plan F, and that covers everything that Medicare doesn't. If Medicare will cover the 90, they'll cover the other 20, no matter what. And so as a consequence of that, I was able to get the bills that have been accumulated that were unpaid. Those were picked up by Medicare and the supplemental plan. And then the bills I accrued going forward were picked up by Medicare and supplemental plan. But, what was so scary is that although I could have, if I hadn't been in that 3-day window, I had to wait a full year before I could apply for Medicare because there's an annual window.
Right.
And I would have been dead by then.
But the other thing that I think, and I don't know if you know this, Judah, or not, but I think it's important for folks to understand. After that 6-month period, that grace period that you have to go into Medicare, by law, your supplemental with a pre-existing condition cannot be used against you. They can't use actuarial tables against you. But,
well, this was before the Obamacare was passed.
Right.
And so actually, I didn't have 6-month window. I had a 3-month window.
Oh, wow.
Because I turned 65 in November. My birthday is coming up next week. And so then this was 3 months after I enrolled that I had to get in. Wow. So I didn't even have a 6-month window. I had a 3-month window. That law has changed. Now it's longer, but
now it's longer, but still,
as I understand it,
that is still problematic in that, again, if you're not in that window at 65, guys, at 65, if you're out of that window and after you find out that you have an illness and you try to go back to traditional Medicare, your 80% will be covered and you'll be able to get that. But God help you finding a supplemental that will take care of your bills. You probably couldn't afford it. Go ahead.
Well, interestingly enough, the AARP plan did accept me, even knowing that I'd been diagnosed.
You were still in the window.
I was still in the window, so I could make the change.
That's the law.
Under the law, they had to accept me.
Under the law, they had to accept you.
Yes, and this is before the Affordable Care Act, so
right.
Which eliminated the insurance self-serving protections on no pre-existing conditions.
The pre-existing condition doesn't apply, however, to Medicare after the 6 months because you had your opportunity to choose Medicare or Medicare Advantage. Exactly. Those are all the things that they do to go around it. But look, so in effect, by the way, how are you doing right now?
Well, the cancer is back, but I got a little something that's about. I got, and it's migrated into my lungs. So I got one tumor that's about a half an inch. I got another tumor that's about a quarter of an inch. But these had grown up until I started the new medication about an inch each. Plus, I had a mass growing in the hilar lymph nodes in between my lungs. And so now the interesting thing is that so this is another thing that I need to give as advice for people. When you seek out a doctor, make sure you have a doctor that is really staying on top of the literature. Most doctors today now are employed rather than being independent, and they have a really high patient load. So as a consequence of that, they very seldom have time to really stay on top of this. So I had been blessed because I'd been in New York last June. I'm a big fan of Thomas Paine. My book is inspired by him, and so I was in New York for basically Thomas Paine's. There's a big Thomas Paine Day in New Rochelle where the National Historical Association is based, and so I went there for that. And while I was there, at the suggestion of my ex-wife, says, "Well, listen, you're going to be in New York. Go to Sloan Kettering." And so I made an appointment. They accepted me, which was because here's just this nebbish from Colorado, and they said, "Sure, yeah, we'll take you." And so I saw one of the top oncologists in the world, just luck of the draw. Or just, for whatever reason. And then this guy determined that I was on the wrong medication and referred me to an oncologist in Denver, who now I'm seeing, who is at the University of Colorado Health Sciences Center. And, rather than one of these private clinics, this is a, state-funded, it's not Medicare for all, but it's, state-funded. And I'm really grateful. This woman is just incredible. She's so on top of the medication. So when I had a health crisis in September, because there was an overlap between the immunotherapy fading out and the new drug kicking in, my body got overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And so this one was able to figure out what's happened. And then, so now I took 3 weeks off while my body recovered. I dropped down to close to 100 pounds.
Wow.
I was a skinny mini me.
Yeah.
And so now, since then, I've started regaining weight, and we also found out the cancer had shrunk, so the new medication is working. And but just I'm in very good, excellent care, which wasn't the case before because this guy, he meant well, but he was overwhelmed, by his patient load, and he didn't have time to do his homework.
Okay, let me stop you right there because I need the audience to understand this. I am a proponent for having real health care, which means universal health care. You can call it Medicare for all if you want. You can call it healthcare for all. But Judah's experience just was the answer to your question. A doctor in the public domain, a doctor in the commons, a doctor that is...
It's a privately run college, but it's fine. State college. But
it's a state college that receives a whole lot of grants and all these items. They don't have to be overwhelmed by patients.
And they're a research center as well.
And they're a research center. You realize what we talk about, medicine for profit versus medicine to heal. There is a difference when you have medicine for profit versus medicine to heal. His life wasn't only saved because he went from Medicare Advantage to traditional Medicare, but it was also saved because he went to an institution where profit wasn't the sole motive for giving care. It's important for us to understand this. Go ahead.
My nutshell view of that is that I don't think, I'm a big advocate of human rights and civil rights and what Paine called natural law. And, the people in the Enlightenment, the 18th century. But my belief is that my body should not be somebody else's profit center.
Exactly. That's, what? I tell you what, I think that's the way to end this conversation. You nailed it. If we take what you've just said, my body is not somebody else's profit center. That answers our healthcare problem. That presents us with our healthcare solution. We should have universal healthcare covered by our society which we all participate in. Thank you, Judah. So
before we go, I want to add one thing that might help readers, your listeners. You had a guest on your show some time ago, Jerry Ashton, who is the author of a book called, or one of the 3 authors of a book called End Medical Debt, which I edited and published. And if people get that book, they can understand. There's detailed in there because it was written by a healthcare administrator and two medical debt collectors, who, by the way, started a charity now called Undo Medical Debt, which is forgiven somewhere upwards of $13 billion in medical debt. But this book goes through why the medical situation, how we evolved from into a for-profit healthcare industry. We no longer give a chicken to the doctor to pay for our doctor visitor, let alone house calls. But if people want to really understand why the insurance industry is the way it is, how we have consolidated healthcare in this country, I really do recommend this book. And by the way, people ought to know that for every copy that sells, forgives about $500 in medical debt, because I donate the money donate 85% of the money to the charity.
Judah Freed, thank you very much for your work as an activist in healthcare and otherwise. And I think your story will enlighten quite a few, and it'll continue to put us on the path where we actually get a humane healthcare system. You have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. I'm grateful to be here.
Anyway, folks, I hope you got what I got out of that interview. Anytime I speak to people like that, it gives me that fervor to keep doing what we need to do to both inform folks so that they can force their politicians to do what they know is the right thing to do. Right now, as when you hear some people, they listen to when Jacques Van Bebbe talks about the corp and hit them up and all that kind of stuff. They're like, oh, there he goes again. Well, it's existential, folks. It's life and death. These guys monetize your life. Monetize not making sure your life continues. But anyway, folks, I'm going to continue a little bit about this, but we're in Fund Drive, and I'm still at a big zero. That interview and those kinds of interviews and those kinds of enlightenment is what we're all about, folks. Do you want us to be able to tell the rest of America, the rest of the people, the listenership, that we can make a difference, that as opposed to being lied to by our mainstream media, by those who are presenting these ads to fool you, ads to have you make the wrong choices? Isn't it worth having a station that takes care of ensuring that people are informed so we can make the right decision? I want to give a big thank you to Ben in Houston, Texas, for being a new member. Thank you so kindly for your support, my dear brother. Thank you so kindly for your support. So folks, give us a call, 713-526-5738, extension number 1. And Lee Bearcat in the chat, he's doing a lot better. He has a new medication that has shrunk some of his 2 of his tumors from an inch back down to millimeters. So you heard the story about him going to New York to the Kettering and getting the right medication. Persuasive barrier, we'll talk about the deal Trump made with OPEC to keep the prices high. Inflation, as I mentioned before, had nothing to do with own supply chain, but mostly to do with corporate greed, and including what Trump did with Saudi Arabia. You're absolutely right, Mr. Persuasive Barrier. All right, let me go to Sandy, and then we'll come back. Folks, you got time to call before it takes a call, the online call, 713-526-5738, extension number 1 to give. Please do that now while Sandy is doing some more informative pitching, as well as go to kpft.org, hit the donate button. Soon as you hit that donate button, select Politics and Right as the program you're supporting, and give whatever you can. $5 a month, a coffee a month. Can you do that? $10 a month, a couple of coffees a month. That's what I do. And there are folks that can do a whole lot more. If you have deeper pockets, if you can say, I want to help out, I want to make sure that this kind of info is out there, give whatever you can. Please, 713-526-5738, extension number 1 or kpft.org. Sandy.
Thank you, Egberto, and a big thanks to Ben. That was a very kind, generous donation, first of the morning out of Houston, getting us off the zero for the day. Maybe the hardest pledge of all to get, Egberto. And there's still room for you. In fact, there's room for everybody this morning as we try to collect the money it's going to take to pay the bills. And you're absolutely correct. You've got one station in Houston unfettered by commercial bias. Commercial bias is unbelievably powerful in the media industry. You know, if I were running a commercial station instead of KPFT, and I say running it, it kind of runs me and the volunteers run everything else. If we were a commercial station and we had a guest on or we had a program on like Politics Done Right discussing Medicare Advantage, and then we found that one of our sponsors, oh, it's a Medicare Advantage plan. Just call the 800 number on your screen and talk to a friendly representative that'll hook you right up. How do you think that commercial sponsor would view our station in terms of keeping that money coming to keep our station on? Probably not very well. They probably say something like, you really shouldn't be saying those things if you want our money. And that's the way it goes. So things change. We just saw it with the press, with the Washington Post not being able to endorse Kamala Harris. They were prohibited by their owner, a billionaire, Jeff Bezos, who had enough money to buy the paper, you know, good investment. We'll just put that one off on the side, and I'll make that call every morning around 9:30 while I'm sipping my second cup of coffee to make sure things are okay, and then get on my phone and look at the app that counts the money. You know, that kind of behavior and the outcome of the influence is astounding on media. The effects are unbelievable on what gets into your head and into your ears. KPFT is independent. We've been independent for 54 years and 8 months, and we aim to keep going. And we aim to keep having these discussions. You know, I keep calling it the oasis in the media desert. And I think the very definition is the discussion we're having this morning. You're just not going to get this on other stations. They can't. They're governed by the commercial dollar. You are our sponsors, our listeners. So those of you that have never given to the station before, this is your golden opportunity to consider that notion, to give to something which is otherwise free when you turn on those magical boxes, as Egberto puts it, the radio, or stream over your phone or device. You know, already 580 people, 580 acts of donations, kind donations have been made. And Ben was the 580th. Can you be the 581st to keep this little window that we have on the FM dial in the media space in Houston, free and independent so as to bring you what other folks cannot. They cannot. We can. 713-526-5738, option 1, or kpft.org. And Ben, by the way, is going to join us on our second cruise around Clear Lake on December 7th with Ronnie Renfro and Tom Richards. So Ben, we'll see you out there. There's room for you. There's still, you know, room on that boat, and there's room in the bigger boat, the one that we're all sailing on, called KPFT. 713-526-5738, option 1, or kpft.org, and click donate. Egberto, back to you.
Thank you very much, Sandy. So yes, folks, I mean, that story, like I said, why it hit me when he wrote me a couple of paragraphs in return to reply to the newsletter, and why it touched me so is that this guy's a journalist. He's above an author. He's around all over the world. And if he had to go through this, think about your grandmother, your mother, that has to go through this, not being able to navigate the system as good as this guy could. And this guy got lucky. He actually got lucky by 3 days. That's why it's especially in this time, I speak so much about Medicare Advantage, because right now all the commercials, the ads on TV, there are people out there that have a good Medicare plan with a good Medigap plan, and these guys are telling them, "Hey, get rid of that. I can save you a couple $100. Get rid of that." And they've pawned their lives because of these great ads out there convincing you to give up what you've had, to give these. And you see how polite this guy was. I call these Medicare Advantage salespeople thugs, because what they do to you, if you take a look at how we treat that petty thief that goes into the grocery store or goes into the abarroteria, the convenience store, and steal a candy or steal a cigarette, we really demonize them on TV. They make the 5 o'clock news. He ran into the store and he take that thug and he's running down the streets, and we have all these ads about the criminality of these folks, and then we have these thugs in ties and suits. They take your money. They don't take a cigarette. They don't take $10. They don't steal $10. They steal hundreds of millions, billions of dollars, but they're wearing a suit and they speak kindly. And even I had to be. The reason I corrected my brother Judah is he wanted to be polite. Oh, well, they just didn't do as they really could. No, they're criminals. All right, let's go to Harry. Harry, you're on.
El Señor Humberto Willis. Good morning, Sandy. Good morning, Howard. Good morning, Magic Jack. Well, I'm glad this guy, you're a guest on the video, Judas Priest, got lucky, and I'm glad God was looking out for him. And I hope God continues to look out for him. I'll pray for him. I'm glad his cancer's doing better, and he's getting everything from Medicare. But what I mainly I've called to talk about is what Howard mentioned yesterday on Arnie Arnison's show at the top of her show about Michelle Obama, and what Arnie read about the third party, people voting for third party. And you heard my brother Alan, and you heard Johnny, who's mentioned many times on the show about his candidate.
Go ahead and make your point, though, Harry. Harry, go ahead and make your point, because the lines are filling up.
Okay, I'll hurry it up. There are two people on my California ballot that I was reading up on. Mark Megalese, who's running for member council, and Catherine Stefani, who's running for state assembly. And I listened to her video, and I read his paragraphs, and I like the way they're talking about how they want a permanent ceasefire in the Gaza. They don't want weapons going to Netanyahu anymore. And that's what stops me from voting for Kamala Harris, because she won't come out on a strong stance.
Harry. I respect all the views right now, but I am not. I'll be honest with you right now. For all of those given an excuse, hold on a second, Harry. For all of those given an excuse, and I mean this honestly and respectfully, but for all of those doing a personal vote because of their character, you've said your part about that, and I respect that. I don't need to hear it again. I respect your point of view. I disagree because, again, I think it's a detriment if things doesn't go the right way, but that's what you're going to do, and I respect you. So, all right, so let me go to...
and all the rest of you, and you're saying about all that. I understand it's dangerous, but I have to vote my conscience. That's just how I feel.
Right. I understand. Let me just say this. Hold on, Harry. Let me just say this. And I say this to all the people that tells me I have to vote my conscience, okay? If somebody has a gun at my daughter's head and they tell me, and Kamala, I'm going to put it as drastic as I can. And I know one person, I don't like all that they're doing, but to save that person's life, I have to do it. But my conscience tells me I don't like what they do. That's not about conscience at that point. Okay? So that's all I have to say, Brother Harry. So I got to go to Linda. So let me go ahead. But thank you, brother. Keep calling. But I disagree with you there completely. Let's go to Linda. Come on in, Linda.
Good morning. Real quick, I just wanted to say that I appreciate, I don't often get to listen, but this morning I tuned in and the gentleman that was talking about Medicare Advantage, and the purpose of my phone call is to make sure that I tell everybody, the ones that have traditional Medicare, make sure you stop and call and check. My mother had a stroke in 2019. She has traditional Medicare. I care for her and I make sure that she is not on Advantage. And something just told me to call Medicare the other day. And I called. And the woman was telling me that I was on she told me that, oh, I see your Medicare has been switched over to, she said something like a MMO or MMP or something like that.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
And I told her, I go, excuse me? I said, no, my mother has traditional Medicare. I didn't change anything. This is what they're doing. And you guys may have heard this, but if you haven't, I want to let you know. What they're doing is they are automatically opting you in. You have to opt out. I just so happened to call. That's how I found that my mother had been opted in. They hadn't even sent the letter out. When I finally got the letter, I had less than 10 days to make that change. If I had not called, I would not have been able to make that change. I'm telling everybody, if you're on traditional and if you want to stay on the traditional, you need to stop whatever you're doing and you need to make sure that you are on traditional. I also requested that she put a note in my mother's file, do not change her, do not ever switch her. I do, because she had the stroke, and then as she's 85, and as she go on through this journey, other things may come up. She's constantly having to go to the doctor. I know she would not get the care. And the last time I took her to the doctor, they said that she had a myeloma, multiple myeloma. At any rate, and so we have to go to MD Anderson. MD Anderson do not take Advantage. I would not be able to get my mother the care that she needs. You have a lot of seniors that do not know about this stuff. You have seniors that are elderly and ill. They don't know that they have been switched. And I'm just grateful to God that my mother has someone that can take care of these things for her. So I beg your listening audience, if they want to sound traditional, believe me, you better check, because you probably have been switched and do not even know it, and it's wrong. I just wanted to say that. And the last thing I want to say that, you know what, vote for whoever you want to, but it is not fair to try to convince people, because I can have one thing that bothers me about a candidate, but there's a whole world, there's a whole United States, and there's a whole world depending on us to make this thing right. And my one vote can make a difference. My other things that I have a problem with, get the right person in office and we can put the pressure on them and we can deal with those one things. But that one thing, but your one thing can make a difference. Your one vote can make a difference in democracy. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much for your time.
Linda, thank you. And your call has been the most important call thus far. And I have to just say a couple more sentences about it. Thank you so kindly for bringing that up, okay? Okay, I think Linda left already, but folks, oh, thank you, Linda. Let me just say this. Linda pointed out, and I don't know why I hadn't mentioned that before. It is very important. Make sure, because there are all kind of backdoor stuff that they put into the law, that these Medicare Advantage criminals have bribed our politicians to put into the law, that allows that behavior that she just spoke about, meaning automatically transitioning you. I don't remember, there is, it's a local group that they transfer Medicare traditional Medicare people in, but you have the option to opt out, not opt in, but opt out. Opt out meaning they do it, and if you don't change it within 10 days or so, it's permanent. So you have to be responsible and care for your own Medicare and make sure that you stick with traditional Medicare. The worst part about it is that Donald Trump has come in to remove even further regulations. That's what they have said they would do. That's what Mike Johnson was caught on tape saying. I have the tape where he said they're going to remove all those regulations to open up healthcare to the free markets. So this is not a joke. So when I have no, like I said, I respect, as Linda said, everybody's right to vote however they want to vote. But I no longer, at this critical time, have the tolerance for others who will put the risk of most Americans at hand. Right now, it is imperative that we not have esoteric views of possible realities, but that we look at things the way they are. And Linda's call about Medicare, how they are attempting to take Medicare and automatically put you in Medicare Advantage, is an important statement that everybody must heed and listen to right now. Let's before I go to Johnny, folks, we are in fund drive mode, and I only have one contributor thus far. Could you please give us a call at 713-526-5738, extension number 1. Contribute whatever you can. But as Sandy has stated, if we can get more sustainers, we can have less contributors. We can not less contributors, less fund drives. 713-526-5738, extension number 1. Can you give us a coffee a month? That's $5 a month. Can you give us 2 coffees a month, $10 a month? That's what I do. I volunteer here, folks. No pay. No pay. I want you to know, and none of the money you give comes to me. I just want you to know, some people are, nothing. But I am volunteering $10 a month for this particular 501c3 because of the importance that we know it have. And it also gives us all a voice. As you can see, for those that are waiting to speak right now, everybody has got a voice. A voice. I'm going to run to Sandy, then I'm going to get to Greg, Johnny, and Brian. Sandy.
Yes, Egberto. One person has stepped up, Ben. Thank you for that. And we've got room for you. We've got a $300 goal. It has not yet been met. And hey, folks, I don't know what drives you to make the decision to give up $5 a month on a sustaining basis or $10 a month. But I do know this, you're listening now. So you're getting something out of it. And you made that choice to listen to this station. Ask yourself why you listen to this and not the other radio stations, and then decide to go ahead and make that donation. Because we all have to participate in this. Everybody that listens owns a little piece. Everybody that donates becomes radioactive and becomes a member of Pacifica and KPFT has taken that step to go from listener to supporter. We need more of you to cross that bridge. 713-526-5738, option 1, or kpft.org. A Politics Done Right t-shirt is $100, a $15 a month pledge. Sustainer, or just 12 payments of $15 a month, will get you a new logo KPFT hoodie, which is perfect for these cooler days coming ahead. 713-526-5738, option 1, or kpft.org. Thank you for your support. We're looking for that 581st donation. I hope it's you. Egberto, back to you.
Thank you so kindly, Sandy. Welcome aboard the chat. Lee the Bearcat. Welcome aboard. Persuasive Barrier. Welcome aboard. Eric Hayes. Welcome aboard. Charlie Lindahl. How you doing, my brother? Welcome aboard. Texas Blue Bonnet. Texas Blue Bonnet says, thanks for having the man fighting cancer, Egberto. I have heard some crazy stories about the Advantage thugs. I will contribute to you the next time, fellow. Thank you, my sister. Appreciate that. Let's go to Greg. Come on in, Greg. Greg, you're on. Okay, Greg, you're on. All right, let's put Greg on hold and go back to Johnny. I think we probably had Greg waiting and he's probably on mute. Johnny, come on in, my dear brother.
Okay, that story with Judah brings one word to mind. The word for today is carrots. You know those little red orange sticks that come out of the ground? Carrots?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
Do you remember when we grew up, they used to tell us, they give us hidden pieces of wisdom. That's up to us. The burden is on us to figure out that it is wisdom, like an apple a day keeps the doctor away. right? So carrots, back in the mid or late 1980s, or was it 1990s, this story was documented, covered on KPFT. And a few years later on Democracy Now!, this woman who I believe was a medical doctor, she was had a tumor in her, what do you call her abdominal area that was the size of a grapefruit.
The abdomen, yeah.
Yeah, and I can't remember her name, but she decided at the last minute not to go the traditional medical route with surgery and chemo and all that other stuff. She did some research on veganism and all, and she decided to start.
Johnny, hold on a second. I got to do a station ID. This is KPFT Houston, 90.1 FM. Go ahead, Johnny.
KPFT 90.1 Houston, the antidote, the carrots to the corporate media. So, this woman, she decided to go the non-traditional route. She followed her instincts, and she bought carrots, not by the bag, but by the, those wooden crates, by the crate.
Yes.
She had carrots every day. I don't know exactly how many she had. She blenderized some. She ate some with her food. And within a few days, the tumor started to shrink. Within a few weeks, when she had her exam, the doctors couldn't find any trace of the damn tumor. And within a few months, they couldn't find any traces of cancer cells in her blood work. And years later, she's still alive. Now, this is, a decade to, 1980s is what? 92. This is like 4 decades ago. Now, she'd be in her 80s, 90s by now if she's still alive. And I wish I could remember her name. But see, this is not just anecdotal. This is more than that, because there are lots of stories like that we don't know about. And it's to the disadvantage of the advantage folks to keep those stories suppressed. That's why it's so important to have 90.1 in your media diet, so to speak. So eat carrots, listen to KPFT, and one final word, unrelated to this. Well, maybe it's related. I'm not sure. You decide. Yesterday, I went down to Lamarck City Hall to vote, okay? And you go in there, and you show them your driver's license. They give you a piece of paper that says Galveston County 2024 November 5 general election, blah, blah, blah. And then they just take this piece of paper and go to that guy over there, and he'll give you another piece of paper with your code. So I gave my piece of paper to the other guy. He gave it back to me along with the code number. And the code number, I didn't realize until after I voted, when I went outside, it said on it 11:01 of 2024 instead of 10:31. And the time was 2:32 a.m. instead of 3:30 p.m. So here's my question for you, Alberto. I hope this is innocent. I hope it's just a time clock issue and not some devious way that the Republicans in Austin have come up with to erase certain votes of people that they don't like. So I guess I'm going to have to go down.
Yeah, let me just say this. Go ahead and keep that paper. Keep that slip of paper if you still have it. Take a picture, send it to me. I'm curious. But please do that. But thank you, Johnny. You have a wonderful rest of your day. I got to go to see if Greg is back and then Brian. But beforehand, thank you, Johnny.
Eric,
folks, give us a call at...
On your phone when you vote. That's my word for today.
Excellent. Just to reiterate what Johnny said, look at all the information you get and make sure it looks correct at the voting stations. Anyway, folks, we are in fund drive mode still, and I only have one contributor thus far. We need at least 3, 4, 5 more. Give us a call at 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. Hit extension number 1 to donate. And give whatever you can, $5 a month, $10 a month, whatever you can. You want a Politics Done Right t-shirt, that's $100. You want a coffee with Egberto, that is our gift for that is $250. Or you can go to kpft.org, that is kpft.org, and give whatever you can. Hit that donate button, select Politics Done Right, and give whatever you can. Please, folks, I'd like to thank you on air before I get off. I think we get off today at about 7:20. So please go ahead and give that now so that I can say a big thank you to you on air. Let's go to Greg. Come on in, Greg. Okay, I think Greg really left us, so let's go to Brian. Brian, you're on.
Oh, thank you. What's the name of your donor today?
Ben.
Ben. Hey, Ben, thanks for your donation. It was well appreciated.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Tell me what you want to tell me today.
Okay. The left-leaning, left-wing news media machine. There's a lot of reports out about how bad Donald Trump is. Like 93% of it is bad. Now, someone took a fire incendiary device and dropped it in 2 to 3 voting drop ballots in Washington and Seattle, Portland, and on it said Free Palestine, and burned all those ballots up. Did you hear about that?
Yes.
Wouldn't it be on the front page news how bad everyone would be screaming if it said Trump 2024?
No, because let me tell you, no, because we don't have. Let me tell you why that's not the case. Because the way terrorism and all these things work is a lot of times you go ahead and you look. I can envision that was done by MAGA, okay, and they just put a free pal. I'm not saying it is. I'm saying I could envision that in order to create a narrative that they would put free Palestine on an incendiary device to create exactly what you are doing right now and putting this on. What I'm saying with that, what we need is to do is investigate it and find the person who did it. We have the car. We know the car that was there. We probably need to see if we can find somewhere to trace that car and get a plate so we can associate it with somebody. It'll happen, and then we'll be able to talk about it. But right now, all we're doing is speculating. Now, the things that we talk about Donald Trump, there's no speculation about it. We know that Donald Trump, through his own words, say that he can grab onto women's private parts without them having any resort and without them not being able to do anything because he's a star. We know that he stole money from people who subscribed to his Trump University, which wasn't really a university. He conned them out of the money. We know that he didn't pay his employees at Mar-a-Lago and other places. He stiffed a lot of his contract workers. We know that as he's fighting against illegal aliens, he called them. We know that he's hired quite a few undocumented workers in Mar-a-Lago and everything else. We know that the person has raped a woman, according to a judge. We know that he stole a lot of money from not paying his taxes for over appreciating his properties. So we can go on and on and on and on. And these things are not speculations. These are statements of fact. When you talk about the incendiary bomb, that is not yet investigated, but everything with Donald Trump has been investigated. All right, Brian, I got to go, but finish. Give me a last sentence.
Of course you got to go. Of course
no. I'm telling you, I'm saying give me a last sentence. I'm giving you the opportunity to say something else, but I'm saying we are near time. Continue, my brother.
You don't see the difference between how everything is bad when it's Trump. Everything is bad.
Well, again, if the guy is bad, everything is going to be bad about him. If he were good, things would be good about him. I can't find anything good to say about Donald Trump. I've tried. And again, so if there's nothing, please, I tell you, I got to go. Brian, I got to go, but I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. Brian, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor to give you fair play. Make a list of the good things about Donald Trump and tell me about it on Monday. Okay? I got to go. Tell me on Monday, make your list, and we'll talk. All right. Let me give a big thank you to Charlie and Karen. Thank you so kindly for your monthly contribution. You became a sustainer. Thank you, my dear brother. I do appreciate that from the depths of my heart. I do appreciate that from the depths of my heart. I can take another call. Let's go to Tag. Come on in, Tag.
Hey, Egberto. Just want to say something about Medicare Advantage.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that gets me about it is that once a person's on Medicare Advantage, the government is sending that company, $1,200 or something every month, regardless of whether they use that service or not. And for me, that's a real big problem, because when you're on Medicare, if you don't have any health issues, the government's not spending any money on you.
Exactly.
But once you go to Medicare Advantage, they're taking money. Every person that's on an Advantage plan is spending the Medicare money every month, whether they get services or not. And I think that's kind of a problem. So that's what I wanted to
Doug,
say.
hey, no, tag. I want to thank you for bringing that up, because hold on a second. I want to thank you for bringing that up. Understand exactly what Tag said. There are a lot of 65-year-olds, there are a lot of 70-year-olds that they never go to a doctor. They are just fine. They're doing their lawns every day. They're in great health. In fact, I would wager that it's most of them. But the way Medicare Advantage work, and I need you to understand what Tag just said. Everybody who signs up for Medicare Advantage, the government gives the Advantage people, whether people are sick or not, they give them $1,000+ a month, whether they are sick or not. Okay? Now, if we got rid of Medicare Advantage and the government was in charge like they are, because they pay the bill anyway, if you are not going to the doctor, and which most people at any given time are not going to the doctor, the government isn't using your tax dollar to pay for you. Only when you need it will that tax. But that's not how it works for the insurance companies. They found a way to say, I tell you, just give us all the money and we'll make all. And you know what? So the government has a fixed cost. And then what we try to do then is we take all that money for everybody who subscribe under this Humana plan or under this whatever plan, this Cigna plan or whatever. We keep all that money. And what we try to do is manage it. And we try to deny people coverage to make sure we can make as much profit on that dollar. We deny coverage. We prevent them from getting the medicines they want to get. We prevent them from going to particular hospitals. You notice what Linda said. My mother, who has a tumor, if I hadn't checked the plan that she was on, she would not have been able to go to MD Anderson. I want you guys to think about it. When we call these guys criminal thugs and killers, I am not saying that rhetorically. I am saying that as an absolute statement of fact, because the things that they do, they have the gun. They have the gun. When they deny you service, that is a gun at your head. That's why when I spoke to Judah, and he tried to be kind, he tried to be civil, he tried to be nice. There was nothing nice there, people. Not because somebody wears a suit as they're screwing you, mean they're worthy, mean they're ethical. These insurance companies are thuggish criminals. Thank you, Tag. You have a wonderful rest. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So the other thing is that, like, when you have a bill, the hospital might get like 20% from these people. So
right.
That's another thing that's criminal. And so how can a hospital or a doctor stay in business with only getting 20% of the money back? So with that, I'll go. Thanks, Egberto.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. And I need to give a big thank you to Jim. Thank you so kindly, Jim, for your contribution to Politics Done Right, my dear brother. Thank you so kindly. Look, we couldn't do this without you folks. I'm going to throw it to Sandy, and then we'll come back.
Thank you, Egberto. And yes, thank you, Jim and Charlie and Karen and Ben, for stepping up this morning, being the first three to contribute on this final Friday of our Fall Fund Drive. Folks, we cannot do this without you. We are reliant on our listeners for support. This is Fund Drive. This is when the support comes in. The final Fund Drive of 2024, the final Friday of that Fund Drive is right here. 713-526-5738. Hit option 1 to donate, or kpft.org. It looks like we are about $3 away from $97,000. And remember, for every $1,000 collected, we're going to be donating shelter supplies to the Women's Home or Star of Hope. We're going to split between the two. And so your donation is being amplified in terms of giving back to our community here in Houston. 713-526-5738, option 1, or kpft.org. I believe we still have Terry Allen tickets. I've got to go check to be sure, but Terry Allen's coming to Galveston Island to the Opera House, Grand Opera House down there, and that's a kind of a special show. And if there are tickets and you're a Terry Allen fan, all that Flatland and Flatland Boogie and all the great lyrics and music he's created, an opportunity to see him live. Another thank you gift on the stack. We've only got a few minutes left in the broadcast, but there's room for you. We'd like to see another 3 donations to match the 3 we've had already. And if you can do it as a sustainer, remember there's an extra $50 bill that's being supplied by a very generous, very anonymous donor within our midst. Charlie and Karen signed up when they made their pledge, signed up just that way. $5 or $10 a month goes much further than you think it might ever when you donate to KPFT. 713-526-5738. Egberto, let's go.
Thank you so kindly, Sandy. Thank you so kindly. Thank you so kindly.
Democracy now.
Thank you so kindly. Hey, Texas Blue Bonnet, I'll let my daughter know that you're giving her some kudos. Thank you, my sister. Charlie, thank you. Yeah, the female vote is blowing away at the male vote. We trust that female vote is the one that is saying, the other topic that I had on the thing was an article from Common Dreams, and it was titled, "They want to ensure that this time white women vote for a woman." And it's an insightful article. It's at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. I have all the videos that I was intent to play today, as well as a link to that article. Great article to our white sisters. It is an important article, and it shows how, in effect, some of our sisters have been played, and they know what cues to use to play them, and this time it just likely isn't going to work. So it's a revealing article, so check it out at politicsdoneright.com or rather it's at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Look, we're going to be getting out of here shortly, so let me throw it to the studio and then come back here for my closer.
Ooh, nothing here. Jack, what you got?
Back in the day, they were talking about death panels, during Palin and McLean run.
Oh, yeah.
Well, your insurance may just be your death panel.
Actually, Jack, there's not just maybe your death panel. It's so, we talk a lot about projection, right? Many of the folks on the right, and I'm not talking about the rank and file MAGA or the rank and file conservative or the rank and file Republican, because like I said, these are good people, different ideologies is okay. That's great. But what we get from a lot of their leaders is something called projection. The very thing they accuse you of is what they themselves are really doing, and they project that onto you. Death panels, as they used to speak about, that is what they do. If you take a look at when you go ahead and put into the domain, let's see, should we give them this medicine that the doctor is advising or not? No, yes, that's a death panel. When Judah, the brother that I just interviewed, that was a death panel when they decided not to pay those bills. That was a death panel. It's projection. Folks, we have to do better. 713-526-5738. Again, the number is 713-526-5738. Please contribute to the station now. If you get it done now, I still have some time to say thank you, even if I got to do it more. But please, 713-526-5738, extension number 1 to donate, or go to kpft.org, hit that donate button, and select Politics Done Right as a program you're supporting, and give whatever you can. Let me give you a list of the things again. I'm asking you kindly, consider $5 a month, a coffee a month, if you can. Consider $10 a month, 2 coffees a month. That's what I do. $10 a month, 2 coffees a month. And guess what, folks? For you, that may not be a lot. For us, it's great, because if we get thousands of people doing that, Sandy can eventually say, we don't have to do this fund drive anymore. And Egberto, instead of interviewing 20 people a month, you got to interview 30 people a month now, because we can take it now. I want to give a big thank you to Anthony. Thank you so kindly. Anthony just came through for us. Please, folks, please continue contributing right now. Please continue, folks. We can actually get something done. We can actually get something done. I got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willis. I love you all. Thank you so kindly. This is Egberto Willis. And guess how I end this baby? I am what? Out!
We now go to Democracy Now! In Progress.